Good afternoon. I've been wanting to come on and say Dvar Torah all day, but it's been so hard, so broken into pieces. As we opened up the phone last night and we heard that Israel found the bodies of 6 hostages that were killed. We didn't yet know who it was right when we opened up after Shabbos, but we found out later in the night 6 innocent young hostages that were killed within the last 48 hours. In fact, some were reporting that the IDF was so close to the hostages to try to rescue them that they were able to hear the gunfire of Hamas terrorists murdering and killing these 6 hostages with guns to their head, bullets all over their body, and to see the starvation they had, the broken bones and ribs that they had earlier, and all the suffering, 330 days in captivity. And of course, one of them was Hersh Goldberg Poland, who was an American, but also had special ties to Boston. His aunt lives right here in Newton. There's been a big memorial and sign up for him the whole time, and today they've been putting memorials for him. And there's going to be a vigil again tonight. There was a rally today. He was a counselor in Camp Tevye. He was a guide for the GAN Academy 2023 trip for the students. But each one is so precious. Each one is so special. Young 21-year-olds, 24, 25, 39, 6 young people full of life. We were so close. Yet we brought back dead bodies buried in Israel. To watch them be buried today. To see the parents have to bury their children. Something no parent should ever have to do. I want to share something from the Torah portion that maybe connects to what's happening. And I want to say some words from the heart, which maybe aren't so politically correct, but it's something that I feel very deeply. In this week's Torah portion, we read the story about what happens at the end of Parshat Shoftim. If the elders of the city, if they find a dead corpse lying in the field, and the Torah says you have to measure to which is the closest city. And if there's no closest city, and it's right between 2 cities, then the elders of both cities have to come out and have to ask God for forgiveness and say, Yadeinu lo shavchu et adam hazeh, our hands did not spill this blood. And Rashi right away asked, the Gemara speaks, what do you mean? Do we expect that these leaders killed him? And Rashi says, no, but as leaders we're responsible for what happens. And if maybe we didn't give them food, maybe we didn't give him drink, maybe we didn't give him an escort to protect him, ultimately it's the responsibility of the leaders. And they would bring a sacrifice, and then they would pray to God and ask God to forgive all of Israel. All of Israel. And the question is twofold. First of all, what do you mean you say? They say that Deinush lo shavchot adam hazeh, as if we accuse the elders of killing them. And secondly, why did they ask forgiveness and atonement for all the Jewish people? Okay, maybe the elders, but why all the Jewish people? And the answer is very powerful and eerily connected to what's going on today. The first thing, of course, the rabbis tell us that leaders are responsible for what happens. And therefore, if someone dies and you're the leader, the responsibility falls on you, and you have to ask forgiveness and atonement. Today, Prime Minister Netanyahu called the families of the hostages that were brought back dead to apologize on behalf of the state of Israel and to ask forgiveness for not bringing them back alive, not doing enough in the last 330 days. And today there's a demonstration of tens of thousands of people demonstrating for a ceasefire now in Israel and to topple the Netanyahu government. And the truth is that all the leaders that were leaders on October 7th and the past 19 years before that had this idea to pacify Hamas and to close their eyes and transfer money to them from Qatar to be able to build tunnels and plan October 7th are all guilty. And ultimately, once this war is over, they all should go. The fact that today, just yesterday, we found out that it wasn't 3,000, but 6,000 people crossed the border from Gaza on October 7th. There's no question about that. Benny Gantz, who was the prime minister before, and Naftali Bennett and Lapid, who shared prime ministers, they're all guilty, Netanyahu. But at this moment, in such a critical moment, when 6 hostages were killed point blank in the head by Hamas terrorists who refused hostage deal after hostage deal to go out and to blame the prime minister of Israel instead of blaming Hamas is the saddest thing. Sinwar is sitting in his bunker and he's laughing. This is exactly what he wanted. In fact, today Channel 12 in Israel published notes they found one of the bunkers that Sinwar was there before he ran away, just lately. And in it says to always blame the Netanyahu government and to always do videos of the hostages, psychologically get the people against the government. That's what he wants. It's at this moment you could blame President Biden or Vice President Harris for not doing enough for the Red Cross, or you could blame Netanyahu, you could blame everyone. But the focus has to be on Hamas, on Sinwar, on these murderous, terrorist animals, worse than animals, and their hate and destruction and death. And it pains me to see that instead of uniting as a country, as a people, to fight these animals, we're fighting each other. Hamas said today, unequivocally, that the only way there'll be a deal is if we leave the Philadelphia corridor and we leave all the other areas. And many pundits are saying that the reason is not just because they want to smuggle in weapons, but because Sinwar wants to smuggle out with hostages and take them to Iran. How foolish could we be? Of course we all want a deal and we all want to bring the hostages back home. But we also have to be united. And that's why when the leaders prayed, they said, God, forgive your people Israel. Because each one of us has some guilt. Each one of us has responsibility. And we have to cry out and say, we did not spill this blood. If it's the prime minister of Israel, if it's the opposition, if it's the defense minister, if it's the head of the Shabak, if it's the head of the Shin Bet, if it's the head of the army, the IDF, each one of us has a responsibility. But we need to be united. Because each one of us is connected one to the other. It's such a dark and painful day. But I want to add one thing. This idea of the Egla Arufa, the corpse that was found, and we don't know who killed it, is sandwiched between 2 portions that speak about war. And many of the commentaries say the reason why it's sandwiched right there, nothing is by coincidence, is because sometimes in war, we get desensitized to killing. We see so many people dying. And we don't realize that each life is so valuable, each life is so powerful. And in a certain sense, that's what's been happening to us. On October 12th, 7th, we lost 1,200 people. And since then, we lost hundreds of soldiers. In fact, just today, we're all talking about these 6 hostages that were killed, which is terrible, that were murdered. But there was also 3 police officers in Israel that were gunned down by terrorists from the Judea and Samaria. Killed a woman and 2 men who were police officers protecting Israel. They're barely even making the news. And that's why, in the middle of when it speaks about war, the Torah reminds us the story of the dead corpse, that we have to realize that every life is valuable. Every human being, every Jew, we have to fight to protect each one. We can't become demoralized. We have to be strengthened. Only through strength, through unity, and only through eradicating and destroying every remnant of Hamas. We shouldn't stop till we kill every Hamas member or exile them. No sympathy, no compassion for terrorists. The Gemara says, Kol Marachim, if you have compassion on someone who's evil, you'll end up being evil to someone that deserves compassion. Israel has to have no compassion on these people. Israel has to eradicate Hamas. And at the same time, we have to negotiate for a hostage deal. But it has to be something that will protect the Israeli people and not bring us another October 7th. God willing, with all of our strength and unity and love for one another, may Hashem bring comfort to the families of those who were murdered, and may He bring back home the rest of the hostages speedily. Have an awesome day.